Out of the playoffs by the Celtics, uncertainty has surrounded the future of Kyrie Irving. The Brooklyn star has a big decision to make on whether to opt into the final year of his contract with the Nets. Irving hit on a variety of topics on the I Am Athlete podcast, including his time in Cleveland with LeBron James. Take a listen to what he had to say.
If I was in the same maturity level I am now and understanding who I am, and I look back on that time then, we definitely would have won more championships together because there would have been a better man-to-man understanding about what I'm going through. I didn't know how to share my emotions. I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to do that. So instead of sharing, I isolated myself.
Back now with Brian Windhorst. Brian, Martin, your thoughts on what Kyrie had to say there?
I appreciate Kyrie doing interviews away from basketball because I think it's great that athletes do this on podcasts. But Kyrie has just been all over the place talking about the departure from Cleveland over the years. And so I really have no idea where to rate this and what he might say again in 6 months. A couple of years ago when Kyrie was headed to free agency, LeBron James was interested in trying to recruit him to the Los Angeles Lakers, and he reached out and attempted to mend fences. It lasted for a short time, and when Kyrie didn't choose the Lakers, their relationship went away again. I will just say that 2 weeks before Kyrie asked for a trade, LeBron expressed his desire to be with Kyrie and hand off the reins to him in a public press conference at the NBA Finals for the world's media to hear. Kyrie came in minutes later, was asked about it, and said that was exactly what he wanted in front of the world's media on the stage right before the NBA Finals, and then 2 weeks later asked for a trade. So I just don't know what to make of what his thought process was in 2017, what his thought process is in 2022, and your guess is as good as mine as what it will be in 2027.
What about you, Pat? Do you have any guesses? What did you think of those remarks from Kyrie?
He's entitled to his opinion. It's about him. He's came up and said that obviously, he didn't know where he was in the headspace of, I don't know if it's being there or confidence in the team. I don't know what it is, but Kyrie is, top 75 player. I don't know why he wasn't on that list. He's talking about the most skilled player I've seen personally play this game. And to say that, at 25, 24 years old, that I'm not mature enough shows the maturity of him. I appreciate him. The game needs him. The game misses him when he was out. And, whatever Kyrie does with, the NBA, and I'm behind it. I'm a big fan of Kyrie. Just the respect he has, the grace and excitement that he brings to the game, no one else does it better than Kyrie.
There'll always be a lot of what-ifs around that situation. Brian, do you think they would have won more championships if they had stayed together, those two?
I think there's a good chance. The 2017 team that they lost to the Warriors, who were an all-time great team, that 2017 team was the best team that the Cavs had under LeBron, even including the year they won the title. They went 12-1 through the East playoffs and just ran into a historic buzzsaw. Durant ended up leaving 2 years later. If they stuck together, it possibly could have worked. Going to what Bev said, I completely understand why Kyrie, who, by the way, idolized Kobe Bryant and watched Kobe Bryant want his own thing about the same time in his career, I completely understand Kyrie's desire to want to go off on his own and ask to be traded. That makes total sense to me. But I think we can fairly say that 5 years on, that decision hasn't worked out. We'll see what the rest of his career goes, but he has never been back in the position that he had when he said that he wanted out, and that's just a fair statement.
And what you mean hasn't worked out? What do you mean hasn't worked out?
Well, he has not been back to the finals.
So we're talking about winning. So we're not talking about individually Kyrie, because in the beginning we were talking about individually Kyrie. Now we're talking about in the team aspect, correct?
Well, if he wants to, I guess I can't speak to what his goals were, but I doubt that his goal was to go to two more teams where they repeatedly had seasons that were letdowns. I doubt that was his goal. But if he's happy,
even with injuries also, let's not forget injuries. Let's not forget COVID. Let's not forget a lot of things. He's had injuries his whole career, Patrick. And I think that's why he doesn't make the top 75, because he's really he is absolutely an all-time great.
but he's only been an all-time great like 40 or 50% of the time. And it's not necessarily his fault, quote unquote, but that's just reality.
Yeah.
So he's still got prime years left. He can change that narrative, but I highly
NBA
doubt that
players
when
top
he asked
75.
for a trade, he would
I
have
think
envisioned.
NBA players top 75 is very
right.
different than a lot of people's top 75.
That's
and he's
probably,
definitely in there.
That is probably true, and obviously we have other shows in the future to debate things like top 75. Real quick, Brian, where do you think the relationship between Kyrie and LeBron stands today?
I'm not sure. I know that there was, like I said, a thawing of it a couple of years ago. I think, if you want to be with LeBron, if you want to be LeBron's teammate, LeBron will embrace you. He will do that. If you don't want to be LeBron's teammate, he won't embrace you. There's a whole bunch of guys who have come in and out of his career who he's been very close with. They don't play with him anymore, and he's someone that he wants to beat. And I think if Kyrie wanted to be his teammate again, he'd be very happy. But if he's not, he wants to beat him.
LeBron, of course, now in Los Angeles, where there will be a new coach for the Lakers next season. We still don't know who that will be, but whoever it is, it sounds like they should expect to have Russell Westbrook on the team, at least for a while. According to Sam Amick of The Athletic, the Lakers are asking coaching candidates how they might use Westbrook in their systems if they are hired. So, Pat, when you hear that that's a topic of discussion between the Lakers and coaching candidates, what are your thoughts?
Due diligence. I think they're supposed to ask that question. That's not a question that they're not supposed to ask. I think they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's. What coach can get the most out of Russ, and what system are they going to implement in around Russ and LeBron and AD. And if it's up to me, it's more shooting. But I don't know how that works out with the Lakers.
Wendy, what do you think? Are the Lakers going about this the right way?
Yeah, I think what the Lakers realize is that there's a chance they may not have a trade for Russell Westbrook that makes sense. And so there's a possibility that he will be brought back. And also, as they reviewed the season, from what I'm told, they thought that there was a way that Westbrook maybe could have been given a different structure early from that coaching staff that maybe he could have done better in. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but here's the other bottom line. They're bringing in like a dozen candidates. They don't necessarily have the answer for Russell Westbrook, so you might as well take a bunch of smart basketball people's opinions for free and see if you can't glean something that you can do with that, because it's going to take a village to figure out what to do with Russell Westbrook to make it work with the Lakers.
Well, I have a smart basketball person sitting right here next to me today. So, Pat, if Westbrook still is on the team, what do the Lakers need in order to get the best out of him?
Another playmaker. That's easy. Obviously, LeBron James and Russell Westbrook are going to have the ball a lot, but a guy that can play off the catch, a guy that can shoot the three very well, a guy that can bring up the ball also to take some pressure off of them. That's I think they need. Surround them with a little bit more shooting. You got to address that five position. Do they have a popping five? Do they have a facilitating five? Do they have a rolling five? Do they have a rim protecting five? You address those issues with a little bit of shooting around them. I don't think it's a hard fix.
Wendy, you mentioned that the Lakers might be asking candidates about this because they haven't found the market they expected for Westbrook. Is he on? Do you think he's on the Lakers next year?
Dan, I don't see a trade out there unless they're willing to dip into their future draft assets. That is a question that, frankly, goes all the way to owner Jeannie Buss. She's got to agree or to deal with the team in 2027, 2029. She's got to protect the organization. If they're not willing to include, whether it's either those picks or other second-round picks, I think it's going to be very hard to make a trade that meaningfully helps them with Westbrook, which I don't think they expected different. I think they realize and they have open eyes on what they're doing. They're trying to explore all avenues. And Jeannie Buss, in her interview with the LA Times last week, alluded to this, where she said that Phil Jackson, who she advises her, says there's always a path to success. Sometimes the path is just painful, and that's what the Lakers are coming down right now.
We'll see where that path leads them. Thanks so much. Brian, the Lakers obviously not in the playoffs, but a fascinating